Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here to talk about mobility and everything in between, from travel to transportation and hospitality, as this does play a role into the future of mobility and where things will go from here in terms of that industry. A lot to talk about as mobility has continued to grow, shift, and shape over the last 5 years, as we've started to see. We talked a little bit about this yesterday on VCTV, the emergence of electric vehicles. We've started to see more charging stations than gas stations. As Tolga mentioned, one of the VPs of Loop, as we mentioned this yesterday on our show. We also, from a transportation perspective, are looking at new modes of transportation, whether that be land, air, or sea, maybe even to the stars, as we're starting to ramp up the opportunity of doing space tourism. But again, where are things here today and where are things going? As investors, where should we be placing our bets? What are the current trends? What are the opportunities? Where should we be paying attention to? Entrepreneurs, what should you be looking at either doing today, future products and services, or where are some great ideas for you to start developing in? That's what we're here to talk about, and we're going to jump right in. But before we do, a big thank you to your audience. If you're liking what you hear today, there's a big red subscribe button down there. Make sure you click it to be alerted and tune into all episodes of VCTV every single day, multiple times a day, on different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, as we bring together the best and the brightest to share with you their insights and have an opportunity for you to join as well. Do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. Same with you, entrepreneurs. There is a virtual stage here at VCTV for you to get up on and pitch us as investors and founders focused on your industry, to hear real-time feedback on your company, product, or service, also to build foundational relationships with us and our entire live audience. So do reach out. We'd love to find the right spot for you. And a big thank you to the LA Token team and Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and get started. Noble, welcome back to the show. Pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background.
Hi, my name is Noble Dracone. I'm the author of the books Winning the Trading Game and Trade Like a Pro. I'm also the managing partner of Dracone Capital Partners, and I'm an advisor and co-fund operator of Accelerator Venture Fund in Los Angeles. I've been in the investment industry going on almost 28 years now, among multiple verticals. We raise capital in paging technology back in the 90s, and later subsequently been part of Web 1.0, 2.0 growth, now Web 3.0. So happy to be here. I'd love to talk about all things AR and VR and Web 3.0.
Wonderful. And AR, VR plays such an impactful role in the future of transportation and mobility, as we'll talk about here in just a moment. But before we do, Mr. Gary Fowler, the Grandmaster of Artificial Intelligence, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm an investor, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. Love artificial intelligence. Have done 16 companies, 2 unicorns. Every time I say that, and a partridge in a pear tree. It's coming towards Christmas. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just something about it. I'm in the Christmas spirit a little early this year. Anyhow, so we're in artificial intelligence. My company is Get Shit Done GSD Venture Studios. We curate companies from all over the world, take operational roles in those companies, help them to go global. And we use Silicon Valley as a port. And as I said, we love artificial intelligence because it is the new electricity. Thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely, it is. And speaking of electricity, we talked again yesterday on VCTV about the future of mobility, looking at electric vehicles, and that being the next wave, as we've been working towards it, and we're about to see it even faster in terms of acceleration and deployment. As Tolga mentioned, we are due to see no more gas stations, but instead electric charging stations, which will be exciting to see. But I want to come to each of you on your current views and current state of what you're seeing around mobility, travel, and hospitality. And Noble, let's start with you. Where are you seeing these industries today and where they've kind of shifted and shaped and looking ahead?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a simple kind of almost layup, right? People are no longer traveling. And so it's been hyper restrictive in the way that many people are interacting or working with each other is through Zoom and all other kind of outlets to try and get their interactivity. But as we kind of evolve, especially in the augmented reality space, and we start seeing where things are going, it's very exciting how people are kind of taking these virtual trips, virtual tours, and utilizing AR to kind of see places that they're eventually going to go to. You know, Google is one of the best examples where they 100% are have mapped out cities and countries to the point of where you can literally go online and tour a city long before you arrive and know what the hotspots are, what the locations are. And overall, AR is really taking that to the next level in a big way. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Total Recall, where Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he literally went on vacation, and his vacation was in an immersed, VR environment. And that's kind of where, the development is headed, in which, and so it's kind of like when we talk about AR, VR, it's immersive technology, right? It falls all spectrums, holograms, from augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality. And so it's interesting how we're really headed more and more in that direction. The development, a lot of different cool little software and programs that are getting people to be more inside, more inside the digital world. Games have exploded this last 9 months. They've made their entire budget for the year. And in fact, all the major game consoles have been sold out already pre-Christmas. And so they're trying to catch up for January to be able to sell more. And so that's all leading in the direction with the higher computing power, with AI, that people are just going to find themselves really in the oasis. I mean, that's, without a better way to say it, that's really where things are headed. And unless the travel restrictions change in a significant way, and it's doubt that some countries are going to open up their borders 100% regardless of vaccine or not, people are going to start finding themselves doing more things together online. We've seen it with Switch, we've seen it with the Nintendo. So I'm really excited at the direction gaming's taking and really bringing people together in a unique way.
Thank you, Noble. And Gary, to you, current states of transportation and mobility, and even throwing hospitality into that, what are you currently seeing on your side?
Well, I'm in a situation. So with this pandemic and, probably going to last another year and a half, 2 years or more if it follows suit as the Spanish flu of 1918. So, I mean, we've got one is, if I'm coming on to a cruise ship, let me tell you, Kyle, if I would go on a cruise ship today, I'd be a little nervous. I think I'd have one of those white suits and a mask on. And I don't mean a regular mask. I mean one with oxygen. So I think we've got some issues. So, one of the ways to do it is prevention in terms of making sure that we're using things like Hikvision or FLIR cameras to be able to check the thermal, do those people have temperatures, et cetera. Things like contact tracing, so if something does break out and you're on a closed environment like a ship, to be able to identify where that person is. The other thing is, what's happened in terms of travel is people are starting to explore their own areas and starting to uncover things they've never seen before, because quite frankly, we were too busy and tied up because we're flying from California to New York, New York to San Francisco to London. We didn't really take time to explore what we really have in front of us. Those kind of things have changed. So local kind of travel where people can get in their car, a 2-hour trip to see something different, a cabin, a hotel, those kind of things are picking up. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of travel. And it's going to be interesting to see what the impact's going to be over time, whether people are going to keep that up or not. My suspicion is with this digital transformation, quite frankly, Kyle, this is the way it was 25 years ago, right? Before people were traveling all the time, they would spend more time with their families because they weren't so inundated with technology. The good news is we can be much more efficient. So look at, you just the way we use Zoom today. I've been on a call in Singapore, in Moscow, and here we are together with Noble, the two of you in California, and I'm in Florida right now. So look at how our lives have changed. And the other thing is, and I was thinking about this today, our lives have changed so much that I'm not sure I need to go to Africa to be able to see the wildlife. I just as soon have the VR or an AR kind of experience or XR experience to be able to see what it's like. I don't need to go the same kind of way to places that I did before. In fact, right now, I wouldn't go, right? I want to have those more immersive, travel experience without ever going anywhere. So I see that happening. I also see that, if we look at, um, so we take a year ago to today, how much our lives have changed in terms of the value we have in the simple things, right? The simple things in life. Instead of, taking a jet boat ride, people are taking bike rides, right? They're getting on their bikes and their families are going out on bike tours, right? So it's amazing, actually. Bike sales. I don't know, we've talked about it before. I ordered a bike several weeks ago. The bike was sold out for the whole year in 1 week. I had to buy it from California and ship it to Naples, Florida to get the bike. Now, this is crazy. The good news is people are doing things they hadn't done before, and I'm really excited and happy about it. In terms of travel, I mean, look at Disney, right? So Disney people are starting to come back in, but they've instituted safeguards. So the social distancing, wearing masks all the time. I also see people coming out of their shells. I don't know what it's like in San Francisco right now, but I see people starting to come out and say, listen, I'm going to go do things. No matter what, I'm going to start, enjoying my life a bit because time is precious to me. So I see a lot of that happen. It's a very interesting situation because we've been so locked up. We want to get out and do things. At the same time, sometimes, as I said, the simple things are important. I know for myself, on the Sundays, I actually go out and we go bike riding on the Gulf of Mexico. And it's a lot of fun. I never, ever, Kyle, would have done that a few years ago. I would have never even thought about it. I would ride my bike here. Actually, I would be in California at a Stanford University riding my bike and not in Florida going to Naples. So,
well, and that brings up an interesting point around travel and hospitality. I mean, we're seeing Airbnb had an outstanding, blown away Q3. And I mentioned that because it's shifted how people are perceiving both where they're going and also where they would be staying, right? So to both of your points of, how we are looking at things more virtually or doing things very differently, right? Hotels are declining. That type of we'll call it travel lifestyle is not as important as it once was, right? When we thought about traveling, it was like, okay, where's the next hotel? Where's this hotel? Where's that hotel? Where's everything around the hotel? Instead, it's more, let's go to this particular area to do XYZ activity. And where's the VRBO or Airbnb that we can stay at, which in some cases can be cheaper. Or again, provide different experiences as they have experience on top of that. So Gary, real quick, I want to come down to you because it sounds like you're still unmuted there. Where does data and artificial intelligence play a role in all this?
You're carrying an American football and carrying not the real football.
Can you hear
me? Speaking of football, no worries. Speaking of football,
sorry about that, Kyle. I actually have one of my portfolio companies is just in with a VC closing a deal right this second. And I just had to say hello just for a second. I apologize about that. So where does artificial intelligence play in this space?
Absolutely.
So again, I apologize for that. So artificial intelligence, look at all the data that we have surrounding us. And in all aspects. So we're using artificial intelligence to be able to refine the processes, hyper-personalize things like travel, to be able to go to the right place at the right time. And again, let's look at it. Again, the challenge is because of these COVID restrictions, people aren't flying the way they did before. The planes are half full. I don't know if you've flown recently. I did, to Philadelphia, and it was like a ghost town. Actually, in some ways, Kyle, it was quite refreshing because you weren't crowded on the plane. So the data, in terms of artificial intelligence coming into it, so travel, it's evolving over time. Once we come out of this crisis, it's how do we help that person make a better decision, predict what kind of trip that person wants to take, make those kind of offers from a price line, and directly about, where that person we believe would want to go. It doesn't happen today, right? It talks about, oh, you've been at this hotel before in Orlando, here are some offers. But imagine having the capability to understand in granular detail where you want to go, like we do with Amazon, but applied to travel. That's when it starts to become really interesting. And then all the things around it, what kind of hotels you would want to stay at based upon your past and a prediction of where you are. So, hey, listen, I know you like to go to New York City during these times of the year, but here, why don't you try Atlanta? Let me tell you why. And coming up with some stories. That starts to become interesting, especially when deals are put around it, right? Discounts. I know you like to use Hertz Rental Car. Let's talk about, here's a package for the residents outside of Atlanta. And this is the kind of cost during this period of time when it knows that's the week you like to travel. That is really cool stuff. And think about it. We don't talk about corporate travel, but think about when you start to apply AI to corporate travel and on all the permutations and combinations that come in there, and then tie in everything else together. So you got your credit card tied in. It knows your preferences. It knows what you like. It knows how to offer discounts, how to give you specials, how to tie in your loyalty points. So it knows that you like to buy DeWalt tools, for instance. And here's something, take these 3 trips and here's what you get. That starts to become really interesting. And we haven't really evolved to that level yet. A few years ago, my company, Broadiant, actually did the websites for several of the large airlines. And it was at the time of for customer loyalty, your Sky Miles programs and those kind of things. It's just fascinating to see how that evolved, but it just hasn't evolved to the right level today, right? It's not wide enough yet.
Absolutely. And Noble, thank you, Gary. Noble, coming to you, back to AR, VR, looking at this very holistically in the future of travel, transportation, and really hospitality. I mean, you both mentioned it and touched on it. AR, VR, we're going to the Oasis soon, but nonetheless, how does AR and VR really play a role in the future of these industries?
It's interesting because it's multifaceted, right? So, one of the things we haven't talked about is all of these remote worker visas that are happening in multiple countries. One of the professors at Cal State Long Beach that I'm acquainted with, she ended up moving to Barbados because they have a great program there. And while Barbados is English friendly, there's other countries, Costa Rica, Czechoslovakia, parts of Germany, which are now doing the same thing. And so even in today's world, people are using AR to just translate things. You're able to pull up certain apps that allow you to translate when you go there, because you're staying there for 1 year or 2 years. You're not really, if you're not a native speaker, you're not going to spend a lot of time truly learning the local language. And so you're using a lot of augmented reality technology to translate for you, be able to point at signs and have it immediately translate into English or whatever your native language is. You're using it to map and kind of direct and guide you through the cities that you're involved in. And also locations are actually spitting and sending information back to you on what to do and where to go. So augmented reality has multi-facets in which you've got the whole Oasis concept that we all know is kind of coming, but there's also the overlay, Web 3.0, which we always talk about, in which the data is right at your fingertips, utilizing your smart device or eventually just your pair of glasses, like the Google Glass. We've got HoloLens making their untethered lenses now. You've got other people making contact lenses. And these things are giving people an instantaneous access to information that we didn't have before. So that stopgap, or maybe that run in parallel before we get to the full oasis of gaming, you're finding these technologies that are bit by bit emerging, that are giving people the access that before you'd either have to go back to the internet, or you'd have to have a deep well of knowledge, or you'd have to take lessons or et cetera to learn. There's another part of that too about immersive technology. It's not just visual. There's always the audio component too. And so there's a whole stack of real-time translators. And I don't know if you guys have seen these things that are allowing people almost in Star Trek fashion to be able to translate in real time what people are telling them in foreign languages, and then be able to speak on their behalf to tell people what they need in the local language. And so this idea of emerging technologies in this immersive technology space is combining so much. It's very difficult. We get on this show and we try and segment all of this out into these parcels of what the expression is: VR, AR, AI, blockchain. But the reality is all this stuff is so interconnected. None of these things can happen without artificial intelligence. You have to have some form of computer being able to absorb the data, spit the data back out. And there's layers of AI, right? There's always the AI that operates and functions solely on its own. There's heuristic AI. There's all these levels that are operating. And so we always say these blanket terms about AI, but there's so many current functions that AI is doing. In AR, we're using visual science to be able in real time, be able to see things and feed it back. So that's why you can instantly translate a sign in your native language with no problem whatsoever. So at the basics of it, you can find the bathroom, right? So there's all these wonderful things that are happening, that more computing power, more technology, better computers themselves, AI. And then, we mentioned it earlier in the last conversation I had with Gary, quantum computing is now finally getting to a point of where these things are going to move even faster, further, quicker. So the point of where 6G, 7G are going to allow us to have interaction. And so it's a singularity of technologies that are building upon each other, and everyone's kind of taking their slice to express it. But each one is giving the particularly transportation travel industry a new way to interact with their customer. Being able to see the plains of Africa before you attend in real life, bringing elephants into your home using holograms. These are all things that are happening and possible right now.
Well, and with that being said, where are the areas of opportunity? Where should we be focusing both as investors and founders looking at the next 10 years? Noble, let's kick it off with you.
Yeah, I think I'll be frank, where we're focusing and we have a lot of energy on is in the gaming side. We believe that combining both gaming, Bitcoin or blockchain technology, NFTs, and AI, that's kind of going to be the staple. If you can create a platform and you're in that space, then you'll be able to branch out and start engaging more and more people in that area. So we really believe in gaming. We believe in energy being spent there. But other areas that I think are just as valid and exciting are anybody who's taking augmented reality and making people's lives easier. The problem solution set is always the same. If you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language, you need to be able to clearly understand what is happening. And so a lot of energy that's being spent on translation, being able to visually change signs, to change everyone's world around them, we really like. And I think that's a lot of energy and investment should go towards just making life easier to communicate.
Absolutely. Gary, to you, areas of opportunity.
I second the notion, Kyle. So I'll tell you a little thing that happened to me about a week ago. So I have some Spanish workers, Cubans, doing work for me that don't speak English. They're amazing craftsmen. They're actually putting my kitchen and bathrooms in. And I had 6 years of Spanish, but I haven't spoken it for a long, long time. I couldn't understand what the guy was saying. I just couldn't understand anything. So I took my phone and I put out Google Translate and put on the conversational mode of Google Translate. I thought, well, what the hell do I have that, what's a big deal? Anyhow, I tried it and it worked. We communicated using that, and I communicated from Spanish to English, English back to Spanish, and it worked. So, imagine those kind of interfaces are now integrated. Google Glass was quite interesting, although there are some privacy issues with it. But imagine being able to have it hooked up. So no matter what language somebody's speaking, I'm able to interpret. I like that. Noble's right on target with it. I like those kind of technologies. I like the hyper-personalization aspect of travel, being able to be safe and secure during these COVID times, having those thermal cameras set up, anything we can do. We talked about, I have a security company that actually works in thermal detection in airports today. So, and also understand for social distancing when there are crowds, and to be able to, send alerts to security to come over and, ask people to move based on the current situation, facial mask detection, that kind of thing. Those technologies are needed. So one is prevention. The other thing is personalizing. This pandemic is not going to last forever. and we need to prepare for the outside of it. AI is a new electricity, as I say time and time again. We've got a lot of data out there to make people's lives better and travel better. We need to start using that. The whole idea of having augmented reality, VR, to be able to understand the place before you go there and actually take virtual trips, that thing's really hot right now, and people need those immersive experiences. So it's all coming together, by the way, as it is in most vertical markets. The same thing's happening. Data, AI is a new electricity, data is a fuel, and 5G is a turbocharger.
Absolutely love it. Thank you both. And closing thoughts, where can everyone find you as well? Noble, to you. Closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you?
I think that, we're headed to a whole new era, right? We've got the Virgin's Hyperloop did great. We've seen the potential. They've got approval for flying cars and automated drones, and so travel and transportation the landscape is opening up for everybody along so many verticals. And so as an investor, it's where really there's no lack of opportunity, right? It's just a lack of imagination, and so it's always easy to reach out to me, Noble Dracone on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me on Twitter at it's my last name at Dracone. I'd love to hear from any entrepreneurs and investors.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, so this is closing thoughts. This is a great time. Data is all around us. We need to be able to make sense of the data, and with artificial intelligence to be able to help us make not smart but intelligent decisions. So I just published an article, by the way, today, Kyle, on ethics and artificial intelligence. So in Forbes, I'll send you a copy of it over. But that's another issue that we can talk about on another show. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, Gary Fowler, Twitter. You can send me email, gary@gsdvs.com. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you. I got a couple of shows and interesting, amazing people just like yourself, Kyle and Noble, that come on board. Check it out. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Thank you, and appreciate it.
Wonderful. And thank you both as well. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show today. Like Noble and Gary, we'd love to find the right industry, topic, or region around the world for you to speak about as well here on VCTV. Thank you, Gary. Entrepreneurs, do reach out as well if you'd like to be on a show like today to get real-time feedback from Noble, Gary, and myself and others on your current company, product, or service, along with building foundational relationships with each and every one of us and get exposure to our live audience. We'd love to have you on our virtual stage. And also a big thank you to the LA Token team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find myself, Noble, Gary, all of us online 24/7, 365. Find me at Kyle Ellicott. And with that, we'll be back here